God, all the traffic sounds. You guys are gonna have so many traffic sounds that you're gonna be interacting throughout this live stream. So there was small kind technical difficulties. I'm gonna take this out of my ear because that always throws me off so much when I have the lighting. This is so bright. But it throws me off whenever I have the thing in my ear because I always hear it lagged. And so that just stresses me out. It stresses me out. I can't tell. It's hard for me to discern whether or not I'm like actually speaking in a proper I'm actually speaking in like the proper speed that I as a human being should be talking. But I always, of course, end up way slower than I should be speaking. It's a problem. We are currently live. Doing it. Figured it out, guys. We're figuring out. We're up to date. Live chat is up to date. We're gonna have small kind chatums while we wait. See if anybody else wants to join, hang out with us right now. Well, we're just chilling. There's Fanny over there in the back. So small kind chatums. I had to put all my cats like in the bathroom right now because I would have been fine with like having them out on our lanai because they like being out there. It's nice. It's like sunshine, fresh air. Turns out though, my two boy cats, both of them are like getting into other people's yards. So they're not allowed out in the lanai until I can figure out how to block their passageways. So for right now, they're all in the bathroom. Coco's real sad because Coco really liked going outside. Like she was the one who really liked going outside. Super glad to be back from this hiatus. The entire time I was still working, without a doubt. I was still very much just working throughout this entire hiatus. I really just wasn't posting much to YouTube. But I'm glad to be back because I missed you guys. I missed all of this loving that we got going on. I did, of course, rework a lot of things. Of course, we're not used to me having live streams. All of the chatums we can have here now. Think of the chatums, guys. We're not used to me having these live streams, which is always fun to try out some new things, see how we can get this format going, see if we can get people to really get into this format. I have been doing a lot of posting more over on my Instagram with this book's mopeds. I've been posting a lot more with these book stuff over on Instagram, which has given me a lot more of an excuse to read, which I really appreciate. It's been fun. Even I've been writing a lot more. I feel like I got really stalled in my writing. I've been writing a lot more. I was just, in fact, while I was waiting to get to a point in time where I thought it would be like where it was safe to start working like with the actual live stream, while I was waiting for that time to come around, I was actually just over on I was still here. I was still literally right here, but I was writing, and I was writing this book in this series that I'm working on. I hope you guys love it. It's so good. I'm having so much fun writing it. It's great. But that's not what you're here for. It's never what you're here for. You don't care about me. If you cared about me, you'd be over at the vlog channel, which I think I'm going to post it, but I recorded essentially a like bullet journaling video. It's like a 10-minute video explaining what I did with my bullet journal because I recently got addicted to bullet journaling, and so that was the result. I'm going to post that over on the vlog channel so you can. I'm probably not going to do this like ever again because it's really poorly done. I'm not even sure if you can fully see my spreads, but it was fun to do. I was excited about doing it. No, but again, you're not here to hear about my life and my addictions. That's what the vlog channel is for. If you haven't seen my vlog channel, then what are you doing? That's where the trailer for my books are. That's a lot of stuff is over on the vlog channel, guys. You're missing out. But no, right here, we are here to talk about and just fully discuss I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. And I'm super excited for this, primarily because calm down. Primarily because when I record these videos that I have been doing for my Instagram, because I'm not like a verified Instagram account, I have a limit of 10 minutes per video. So I get cut off. I feel like I get cut off and I don't get to talk a lot about it. And then as well, because they're pre-made videos, I don't get to discuss them with you guys. So that's what the live stream is for. And we're going to have fun. So we're talking about iRobot. The concept of iRobot by Isaac Asimov is humans aren't stupid. If we're going to create AI, if we're going to go on with robots and stuff like that in the future, we're going to have some sort of fail-safe to keep them under our belt, kind of to keep and make sure that they're listening to us and that they aren't doing bad things and that they don't kill us. So these fail-safes exist in this book as 3 laws. 1, a robot must not harm a human being or let a human being come to harm through the robot's inaction. 2, a robot must obey humans' orders except when it comes into conflict with the first law. And 3, a robot must protect its own existence except when it comes into conflict with the first 2 laws. So that is kind of the way this book is designed. It's actually a series of short stories. That's why, warning, if you wanted to go check out the IGTV stories, I think you should, because I think they're a lot of fun. I think they're cute. I think it's great. I have a lot of fun making these. But if you did want to go over to those, the iRobot ones are super long. I did a full, I think 7. There's 7 short stories. I think there's 7. I did a full 7 videos, each approximately 10 minutes long, because this book is actually a series of short stories, and it's really hard to clump them together when they are basically 7 completely separate stories, if that makes sense. So it's hard when they have their own plots, they have their own lessons. It's hard to kind of clump them together in ways like that to make it shorter. But since then, my videos usually for IGTV I usually stick to 4 videos a book. So that's the goal, just 4 videos a book, because it was long to make. It was long, I'm sure, to watch. I don't think people started flying off towards the end of that. But I hope you guys, like, if you do want, we'll get into it later, my favorites of them, so you can go ahead and just pop over to those specific ones. And officially, big header right here, officially, if you want to read iRobot, go over to the Ordinary Scholar website, and then over there are links to these books that if you click those links to go purchase them, then I get small kind money, not like much at all, like maybe $1 for each book that you get, but that's still something, and it's a way to support me and help me continue living this dream, which I would appreciate. But anyway, so yeah, this book is a series of short stories. All the way that they're written and the way that Isaac Asimov wrote them as is he wanted it to be kind of like puzzle solving. Like, here, we're going to throw these characters into a situation. We're going to use the 3 laws to figure out why the situation occurred or how to get out of it. Or both, because, why not? So, yeah, it's really interesting to see. It's really fun to read. This is the second time I've read iRobot. I read it a while ago, and I'm not going to lie, some of the stories, like, sat in my head differently then than they do now, which is always fun when you're rereading books. That's always an interesting thing to come across when you're rereading books. The next book I read, Sherlock Holmes, is going to be the next, A Study in Scarlet. It's going to be the next stream. We'll talk about that. We'll come back to this concept then. But yeah, so I say that too many times. My bad. But in this story, we have, let's just go small kind breakdown of all the stories. You have Robbie, where you have this like caretaker robot. It's a robot designed to take care of a child. And mom's getting uncomfortable because people in the town are gossiping. So she takes away the robot from the kid. Kid gets super depressed. Dad's like, it's not my fault. I didn't want to take the robot away. So I'm going to like do some super sneaky thing to make it like you have to bring the robot back. So that's that. Next one is the runaround, where you have a robot who's like, they're on Mars. I actually think they're on Mars, and they're trying to get this one material that you have to harvest from Mars, but because without that material, the station's going to shut down and everyone's going to die. But the robot, as soon as it gets there, there's this like some sort of chemical or whatnot. There are a lot of words that I don't think are real words, so I don't remember them well. So there's like some other chemical that's going to destroy the robot, small kind, and now he's freaking out because he's reached a balance, which I thought was a very nice concept, where in this story you're introduced to the idea of levels of each of these three laws. And in this situation, when they sent him out to get the material they need for the station, they didn't really give him like strict, this is life or death orders. You just kind of said, hey, go get it. And so that's a low level of urgency for the order. But because this is, I think, the first of this robot's kind, the government doesn't want to spend this much money on this robot and just have it die. So the robot starts off with an increased level of the third law of protecting itself. So now they've reached a balance. So this robot's kind of just running around in circles around this thing that they need, but it's trying to stay away from the thing that's going to kill itself. And so they work around of course, the surface of Mars is not designed for human beings. So they decide they're going to walk out there and potentially like either the robot saves them or they die. So that triggers the first law and he saves them. Reason, which was, this one stressed me, like this story stressed me out to no end, because basically a robot gets super religious towards a piece of non-robot machinery and starts a religion, starts a cult. They don't listen to the human beings anymore. They're still able to do their jobs, but they don't listen to the human beings, follow the human beings. They don't care about the human beings anymore. That stressed me out. Like, they tried to make some cutesy, like, explanation for it to like, dismiss the fact that they're no longer listening to humans. That's not okay. That's not okay. What if one day they think that, like, the humans are less they need the humans to be dead? Because this robot genuinely does not believe that there is a human race. He does not believe that there are more humans than the two that were on that space station with him. Something went wrong. You did not give him the knowledge that he needed to be working on a space station. He doesn't believe that space is a thing. He does not believe in outer space. This robot is just not prepared for the job that he's been given. I don't trust him. I wouldn't trust him. But what do? They send more robots up there to get sermons from him so that they can lead their other space stations in the same way. This story I've never been uncomfortable with AI. I've had, like, there are times when I've been uncomfortable with AI and technology, like when you hear about the baby monitors, the Wi-Fi connected baby monitors that people are like hacking into and talking to your kids at night. That made me uncomfortable with AI. Honestly, I'm not the type of person that's ever going to get an Alexa or a Google Home because they genuinely do like gather all of the information, all of the commands that you give them. Yes, it is for the fact of just being able to be more efficient later on. But the fact that they are constantly listening kind of makes me uncomfortable. So I don't want Alexa. But even that, like, the general concept of AI has not made me uncomfortable. Here being presented with the idea that AI can basically turn on us because they get super religious and won't listen to anything anyone else says, that makes me uncomfortable. Presenting AI in such a human way as this makes me so uncomfortable. I'm not kidding. It's like I'm stressed. Next is Catch That Rabbit, which was... Is this my favorite one? No, that's not it. What's Catch That Rabbit? Oh, no. Catch That Rabbit was like this robot who would just essentially, something's broken in the robot. The robot, you have one head robot and a bunch of like small robots that listen to that head robot. He was getting overwhelmed when some like super serious situation would happen, and he has to try and like control all 6 devices, all 6 of these robots, to try and have things happen and make sure everyone's safe. That he would kind of fritz out. He would lose all of his memories of the situation, and they would try and they would honestly just start marching. They figured, hey, let's like, he's probably just getting overwhelmed. There's too much responsibility put on him in this situation. We'll figure it out. They go through some like hyper shenanigans in order to figure this out. They almost die, but basically they figure out, yeah, he's getting overwhelmed by having too many people under his belt. Liar was the one thinking about it, and like from when I first and initially was like, oh my god, iRobot is my favorite book. This is the story I would think of. And it's the idea that there is a mind-reading robot, and this robot is this robot's able to read your mind, and they're trying to figure out how this robot's reading their minds. But along the way, the robot's kind of manipulating them and telling them all these things. Like you have Susan Calvin, which I think I talked about this in the stream. I hate how they have Susan Calvin interact in this story. So, I'm shaking the ground. So throughout the entirety of this book, Susan Calvin is presented as someone who's so into robots. She doesn't really care about the humans. The humans are okay, but the robots are like her love and her life. In this story, though, like you are genuinely presented with a situation. Susan Calvin is face to face with the only ever mind-reading robot, and yet all she can think about is a boy. And so that's what the robot latches onto and like manipulates her about. I feel like you manufactured that. I feel like you thought there's a woman, she has to be thinking about a boy, but everything else about this character shows she would have been far more interested in the fact that she's in front of a mind-reading robot. She wants to figure that out. The other thing I didn't really like about it, like having read through it the second time, was the robot is then presented as the only robot that could understand like human emotions and how they would impact somebody. But we are told and we are informed that the robots have an emotional system built into them to help them deal with stress and stuff like that. So A, they should understand emotions. And B, you see them in the stories interact with those emotions and interact with understanding the emotions that their human counterparts are showing. So I feel like it was, this robot's mind can mind read, but the way they kind of explain off the things he's doing as he doesn't want to hurt your feelings because he's the only robot that understands feelings and whatnot. I feel like he kind of shoots himself in the foot with the way the robots interact throughout the entirety of these stories. But like, I do still love the concept. The writing of it's really good, but this isn't my favorite one anymore. My favorite one, I have two favorites, and it's these next two. Next is Little Lost Robot, where God, this is the reason why I'm so upset with the Will Smith iRobot. I know he's on the cover of the book that I have, but like, I'm so upset because this story would have translated so well to film. They did like kind of a snippet of it, but it was not nearly as good as just this entire story. There is basically, so we have the 3 laws, yada, yada, yada. There is a new space station. They're trying to make some sort of, doing some work. I think they're working on hyper travel. And in it, you have this situation where like they would have to get near some gamma rays, but the robots that they would be working with would then constantly be saving them because like, what if you happen to forget and stay out there too long and die? I have to save you, and that would just constantly just waste a lot of time. So they decided the best course of action would be to have robots that didn't adhere fully to the first law, and they took out the whole don't let a human come to harm through your inaction part, which is stupid. Susan Calvin comes out and she's like, you're stupid. Why am I here? They lost one of those robots because someone cussed out that robot and told him to get lost. So he got lost in a room full of robots that look exactly like him. It's so good. And so they go through a series of things to try and figure out which of these robots is the one robot. And it eventually gets down to this one point. They figure it out. They trick him and find out who it is. he's like face to face with Susan Calvin and he's trying to kill her, but like there's still like that part of the first law in him that's not killing her, but the rest of him wants to kill her so that way he can prove he's superior to the human beings, because this entire time he's been outdoing them and fooling them in all of their schemes to try and reveal him, and that's just bloating his ego and making sure he thinks that he's better than any human being. Just the writing of the short story is so good. I love it. I'm obsessed. Actually, and I also lied. The next short story is not my favorite. The next short story is Escape, which is where you have like these two competing robot companies that have their own like giant brain robots. One of them is one of the giant brain robots from the competing one, the one that's competing with the one we usually focus on in the series. Their robot died trying to figure out hyperspace. So they give them all of the math they used for the project to the opposite team. And they're like, hey, figure it out and we'll give you a ton of money. And they're like, obviously they're doing this because they want to break our robot. So they feed it through slowly to their giant robot. It makes him crazy. But he builds the hyperspace ship and sends the people through. And since the two, like Donovan and Powell are the two main engineers that we focus on, he sends them through hyperspace. They go through and they come back. Turns out the reason why he went crazy was because they die for a short period of time, but they minimize the stress of the fact of death or hurt to a human being to the point where he was able to go through with it and he didn't shut down. But he still like went crazy because it like messed with his first law. That one was nice. My little YouTube. That one was nice. That one was cute, but it's still, and it was actually a really nice story. But like my other favorite one, God, I'm making a mess, was this next one where you have this guy, he's running for mayor, and then you have his competitor. His competitor is trying to argue that his competitor, I don't actually know like either of their names. So Stephen Byerly is the name of the guy. Stephen Byerly is the name of the guy. Quinn is the name of the competitor. Steve Byerly, who's running for mayor. Quinn is his competitor. He's going to the robotics company and saying, hey, I think Byerly's a robot. And either you figure this out and have like evidence to me that he isn't, or I'm going public. And the reason why he's making this guess is because he's never seen eating, drinking, and never known to sleep. So they have Byerly come in. He eats an apple, and Susan Calvin's like, that's ridiculous. Of course, if you can build like a really nice humanoid robot, obviously he's going to be able to eat and defecate and all that stuff in case of an emergency. So this proves nothing. The news goes viral. Everyone's actually starting to freak out. They like raid his house, and he lives with this crippled man. Quinn is making the assumption that the crippled man is the real Stephen Byerly. He got into an accident, and then he built this robot to live on in his place and be good for him and be the Stephen Byerly he can't be anymore. So he gets the cripple out of the house because people are coming in to raid him. The police come through, and it gets to the point where everyone's like, hit someone. We want to see you hit someone so that way we know the truth. So he does. And then later on at the end of the story, we see Susan Calvin sit down with Byerly, and he's like, well, I hit him, and now everyone's shutting up. And Susan's like, I mean, true, but at the same time, like, you're not breaking the first law if the person you hit was another robot, and that cripple that potentially could have built you was MIA for enough time to build another robot. So, this story was brilliantly done. I love the writing, the tension between Stephen and Quinn. You can feel the tension when they aren't even, like, when they're talking about each other. There's one scene where they talk to each other they're just on the phone, and my God, was I like, my heart was beating. I thought someone was going to die, and they were talking to each other through the phone. Their characters were so well written. The only issue I have with this is I just wish they had made it a little bit more ominous, because you do see scenes where like Byerly is talking to his cripple friend, and they make it seem relatively obvious that they do think that he is a robot and that they did build him and that he's a robot and that's an issue and stuff like that. I wish they had left some of that out, so that way it's still more of a question as opposed to the reader knowing it's probably is. But I would love to see this as like a movie or a short. It's so good. It's so good. Last one is The Inevitable Conflict. I didn't write much about this because I'm actually here. I take notes when I do these readings. I take a lot of notes when I do these readings. Like, I took so many notes. I did not take notes of the last one a lot because it was boring. The Inevitable Conflict was basically like something's happened. People, for some reason, are losing jobs. Stuff is happening and messing that shouldn't be happening. The robots are perfect, so they shouldn't be doing anything wrong. But for some reason, all of these things are going wrong. And you see Byerly, he's older now. He's going around the world trying to figure out why all of these things are going wrong in all of these places around the world. And it's so boring. It's so boring. This part is essentially more... I'm sweating. I'm sorry. This part is essentially more information dump. And it's like the last couple, like 40 pages of the book, and it's mostly information dump. I feel like I ended up skimming through a lot of it. It was so boring. But the ending idea was basically the robots are indirectly trying to get these people out of power, these specific people out of power, because they are all sympathetic to the anti-robot movement, and the robots know that the anti-robot movement is... I'm sorry. The robots know that the robots are better at life than these humans are, so they want to snuff out the anti-robot movement, which even that still makes me kind of uncomfortable, but at the same time, like not as much as the religious robot. Not nearly as much as the religious robot. Also, side note about this story, I don't know why, but every time I think about this story, before I read it again, I thought what was happening was like people were dying. I genuinely thought people were dying, people were getting hurt, a lot of people were getting injured and dying and stuff like that. And I thought it was the solution was because population control. The robots were trying to handle population control and stuff like that. Maybe I'm remembering one of those thousands of short stories that I had to read in middle school or something like that. But I don't know why I constantly associate that with The Inevitable Conflict. So yeah, I still do really like this book. I like the short stories. Again, my favorites were the one about Evidence, where you have the guy who's probably a robot, and catch that little lost robot. Little Lost Robot is the title of it, where you have the robot that's lost in the crowd. Just the writing for those was so good to me. I absolutely loved it. Like, here, let me find some of the quotes and stuff that I took note of. This is you have Susan Calvin, who in Evidence was portrayed, I think, better. You see throughout the story, she kind of throws out the idea of resigning relatively quickly. Like, she'll regularly say, which do you want, the truth or my resignation? I won't lie for you. She'll regularly say like stuff like that. And it's nice to see a strong female character that's willing to drop her job and potentially lose everything to stand by her morals. I appreciated that. Oh my God. It's just so nice. There's the idea that back at Little Lost Robot, when they're discussing why they even made this robot that didn't have the full first law, they say like the government was offering the company a fortune and threatening it with anti-robot legislation in case of a refusal. Oh God, they set up these stories so well. They follow them through so well. It's been like a month. I think it's genuinely been a month since I read Evidence, and I still just my heart when I think of the tension that comes through the page between Byerly and Quinn. It's so good. I'm in love with it. So this is definitely a book I would suggest you read. If you wanted to read it, again, there is a link to it over at the No Ordinary Scholar website. Right now, over on my Instagram, I am reading Civil War, the Civil War comic, the Marvel comic. And I'm actually considering doing a video about which was better, the comic or the movie. And so for this discussion, I've mentioned it before, but for this discussion, I would really appreciate it if you guys would harass Benedict Cumberbatch and Tom Holland and have them come hang out with me for a little bit while we talk about this kind of stuff. Because, like, just imagine it. Tom Holland's here, Benedict Cumberbatch here, me in between. It would be such a good image. It would be just such a good day having both of those men here. So we should work on that, guys. Let's work on that. Let's get that done. Check out the No Ordinary Scholar book links. Go check out my books because I still got books out there and I got more coming. So check that out. And if you want to be like on the cutting edge of all of this information, check out my Patreon because that is where everything goes first. But until next time, follow your chin's friends.